Howdy folks, welcome to Meandering Across America, where you'll see our meanderings, ramblings, and rumblings across the USA, and sometimes beyond. Today we meander to the Port of Miami, where we are embarking on a 5-night Very Merrytime Christmas Cruise on the Disney Magic. In a previous video we discussed our issues with parking at the Port of Miami, but in this video we want to specifically highlight the embarkation process of checking in, the COVID testing process, and waiting for the COVID testing results at the Port of Miami. As we explain our experience of checking in and COVID testing at the Port of Miami related to our Disney cruise, we're going to show you some information from the DCL website to show you what needs to be done before you cruise Disney out of the Port of Miami, and then compare the expected process to the real-life experience we encountered. One major area that anyone getting ready to cruise needs to read and understand is the Know Before You Go information from the Disney Cruise website. Also, what needs to be done related to embarkation is contained in the tab Related to Embarkation. This is updated often, so you should check the information immediately before you travel to your cruise port. As taken from the DCL website, here are some of the key processes you should perform before you arrive at port. As noted here, you should complete online check-in. As it states, online check-in begins 30 days prior to your sail date. You must complete the required online check-in process at least 1 day prior to your date that you sail. This step-by-step process includes filling out important cruise documents and selecting a port arrival time. This is something that's extremely important to do, so there's not a lot of delay when you get to the cruise port. The next key area we want to point out is download the Disney Cruise Line Navigator app. It states here, be sure to download the latest version of our app on your mobile device with location services and notifications enabled. You can read the remainder of that. Throughout the COVID waiting area as well, you're encouraged to download this DCL app. But in all honesty, I think it would have been next to impossible, because it was next to impossible to even get a cell signal within the terminal. More on that major issue later. The next area from the website we want to note is the port arrival, specifically arrive on time. As it states, to promote physical distancing in the terminal and reduce the time needed to board the ship, guests should complete their online check-in and select a port arrival time at home. Furthermore, down in the listing on the website, it states, for the health and well-being of everyone, guests are not permitted at the terminal or in the parking areas before their scheduled port arrival time, and will be turned away if arriving early. Based on this information, we decided that we should arrive at the port as soon as we could. Therefore, we arrived almost at the same time as our scheduled time. However, due to issues with parking way far away from the terminal that we did discuss in a separate video, we arrived at the check-in almost an hour after our scheduled time. We believe another area it's important to point out is related to luggage. As it states here, we strongly recommend all bags and luggage be checked in. We actually checked in 4 bags, but also had carry-on bags for such things as medical equipment, water, and photography equipment. The next area we wanted to point out was QR code and proof of vaccination. As stated here, please be prepared to present proof of vaccination and the Disney Cruise Line QR code found on your port arrival form when you reach the terminal. Guests should expect to show this code multiple times throughout the embarkation process. Though we only booked this cruise a week before embarking, we uploaded all of our vaccine information into the required Safe Passages website, did the online check-in, and had a QR code to take with us to the port. Now on to the check-in process. On this, you can see a view of Terminal C from Google Earth. The red portion represents where a bus would drop you off and pick you up. The blue portion represents where you're dropped off if you are dropping off luggage or if you're taking a rideshare service of some type. After arriving via the bus from parking, my wife and I made our way to the door of the terminal. Like I said a bit ago, we were already an hour behind, so the Port of Miami officials let us in. Interestingly enough, there were several people congregating outside this main door, waiting for their time to be called. In this representation from Google Earth, the Terminal C entrance is noted in teal. Upon entering, we immediately were designated a line where we showed them our information on our phone and the QR code printouts that we had. The process was painless and we were allowed to officially enter the terminal. Our bags were x-rayed and then we went to the line for COVID testing. Therefore, step 1, check-in, success. Quick, easy, efficient. We then walked forward into another room where there were lines going back and forth, apparently for when there are a lot of people waiting for COVID testing. However, when we made it there was really no line and we immediately were called to a testing cubicle. The area of the building where COVID testing was administered is noted here in green. My wife and I went together to the testing cubicle. It appeared the entire party would always go together to their own testing cubicle, whether it was one person or 8 people. There was a person there to explain the process, watch you open your kit, label the test tube, watch you swab, and really guide you through the entire process. After you were done, you then put this into a clear baggie and placed it into a Tupperware type of box. When we entered, this box was empty. We noticed several others were filling up, so I suspected that there was a wait time and they would wait for several tests to be in one of these tubs before they took them back to the lab. So, step 2, taking the COVID test. Again, success. Quick, easy, efficient. As noted here on the website, Embarkation COVID-19 testing, it states when arriving at the terminal, check in your luggage with a porter and head to the COVID-19 PCR testing location. With the exception of one vlog that we had watched out of San Diego, most vlogs we had watched showed folks getting tested in their cars when driving to a port. This was the case in the UK cruise vlogs that we watched, as well as the folks that drove to Port Canaveral. At these locations, when you drove in, you took the test and you waited in your car for the all clear before you threw yourself into a ton of other folks. We were not so lucky here at the Port of Miami. Here, even if you drive, everyone goes inside the terminal to both take the COVID test and wait for the COVID test results. Considering how the next step in the process was about to play out, we didn't know how huge of a difference this was possibly going to be. Though step 1 related to check-in and step 2 related to taking the COVID test were both great, the next step of waiting for our COVID test was going to be a circus. The area of the building that was designated as the COVID testing waiting area was upstairs from the COVID testing area. This was a long room with several TVs scattered on the walls throughout. There was seating throughout with some seats marked as do not sit in due to social distancing protocols. On the surface, it was really a pretty good concept. Also, you could look out the windows and see the photographers on the other side of the wall that were waiting for people to get on the ship, as well as the Disney magic actually waiting behind that. Now, before getting there, we already knew that the wait was going to be miserable, even if it was only 30 minutes. As seen here on the website, it states that test results typically take between 45 and 60 minutes to complete, but could take longer. We recommend that you plan accordingly. My wife had really not been outside of her COVID bubble for about 20 months. We worked hard to stay safe, heck, not even eating inside a restaurant since our last cruise in March 2020. Signs all around the waiting area said that when you were clear to sail, you could possibly get notification in several different ways. The website tells us this: when test results are available, you will be notified by email. Okay. It says, next log in to Safe Passage website to determine whether your party is clear to embark. It then says, once cleared, guests should make their way to the cruise terminal, but it also says guests receiving positive COVID-19 test results, including all members of their travel party, will not be permitted to board the ship. Yikes. Also, most of those TV screens kept posting the latest results of parties that were cleared to sail, as well as parties that apparently failed their COVID testing. Keep in mind again, we are all waiting inside this waiting area, those cleared to sail and those ultimately not cleared to sail. In fact, in a group nearby, there were some folks waiting for their second testing after the first testing was inconclusive. Scary. So we waited 30 minutes. Nothing. 45 minutes? Not a thing. We waited an hour, still nothing. We waited an hour and a half, still no notification. Now this entire time you would walk over to the TV screens to see if your code was listed as clear to cruise. From the information on the website, we knew it could take longer. However, we noticed some of the people that checked in the same time we did got their results, and they were boarding the ship at about the 45-minute mark. Good for them, but not us. We started to get worried, and so did a lot of other people, and I mean a lot of other people. We all had port arrival times that were strictly being set to assist in the process of social distancing and not having people congregated in one spot for very long. However, we noticed our room was filling up in a hurry. We also noticed a line forming in the middle of the room. We noticed a lot of the port employees starting together in the room because we started to have a lot of people gathering and waiting in this one room. But let's think back to what it stated about how you're going to get your results. Email, then log in to the Safe Passage website. But folks, here is an issue, and I mean a major issue. There was a major issue inside the waiting area of getting internet of any kind. Cell phones didn't work. You quickly noted that text would not send, much more sending a picture or trying to log in to email. We all started to then wonder, if you're not able to get online, how would we ever know if we passed our COVID test? So back to this line in the middle of the room. What was this line? Was it a complaint line? Was it a line if you failed? Was it a line to check your status? What was this exactly? I joined the crowd and initially also got into this line. Eventually a port employee came back and asked if we had a question. My main question related to why was this taking so long and how in the world would we ever know if we were cleared? Well, they stated to check our text and email and the Safe Passage website. We told these folks that we could not even get on the internet so we could even see. After the mob, and I'll call it a mob, started together in this line and around every TV, some management types from Diagnostics, the firm administering the COVID testing, and some port employees started to appear and say that there was an issue with processing COVID results and that we just needed to keep looking to the TV screens and our phones. Well, this was downright stupid. Sooner or later, we just got out of the line and started monitoring the TV screens. At about the 1 hour and 50-minute mark from the time that we took our tests, the TV screens finally said that we were clear to board. The lady in line asked us to pull up the Safe Passage website, and we said we were clear per the TV, but we could not get it on our phones. After a bit, it finally ended up showing up to this person on their device, and we were off to finally board the ship. So, step 3, waiting for the COVID testing results. Massive fail. So folks, this explains our real-life experience. We already were frustrated because of having to park way away from our terminal. Once you add in the waiting experience, it was not a magical start to our Disney cruise. However, I would like to add right here that we did in fact love our time on the Disney Magic, and we'll be providing a bunch of videos about the ship and our experiences. However, we do have to call out Disney, Inspired Diagnostics, and the Port of Miami about the failure that this COVID waiting process actually was. We're not sure really who is to blame on this specific day, but we have some suggestions. When one piece of the process is broken or is bogged down, the entire process fails. If for some reason this process has not yet been fixed, this is what we think needs to be done. One thing is to make sure you limit the number of people in the COVID testing waiting area. How do you go about doing this? Though you tried to do this by being strict about when you could get to the port, there should be an additional control in place to assure that if a part of the process is overwhelmed or fails, that people do not continue moving to the next portion of the process. This was a major fail since you were crowding a bunch of people in the room to wait when Inspired Diagnostics apparently failed in the processing of the COVID test timely. We only had about 850 passengers total on this cruise, but I bet at least one half of those folks were crowded into this room at one point because of failure of Inspire Diagnostics. And I can 100% guarantee you that the social distancing that Disney proudly places on its website was out of the window at this time. Even if passengers get to the port at a scheduled time, if the process is slowed down or broken ahead, then delay folks being able to check in at checkpoint 1. Another major item. Because the internet and cell reception in the waiting area is poor, assure that alternate means are readily available to passengers to check on their test and board. This was just someone's poor planning to put so much of the expectation that all of the electronics would be working properly. And a third major area, learn some customer service. Disney, we pay a premium to board your ships. If I don't want to be listened to and just be told how it should be working, well, you did a great job at that in this mid-November cruise. True, the employees that didn't care what we said might have been Port of Miami employees or Inspire Diagnostic employees. However, they are an extension of the Disney Cruise Line once their rudeness and their non-listening attitude affects our cruise enjoyment. So folks, that was our overall experience in checking in to our Disney Magic Cruise, the COVID testing that was given by Inspire Diagnostics, and the overwhelming failure of the COVID waiting process. We hope that if and when you sail out of the Port of Miami on Disney Cruise Line that your experience is much better. However, between our failure of the COVID waiting process as well as the failure of the parking and the overall communication process, we're not planning to sail Disney, or any other cruise line for that matter, out of the Port of Miami anytime soon. Thanks for watching, folks. Until next time, happy meandering, everyone.